So today we're going to wrap up our reading for Find Your People by Jennie Allen. Our final three chapters, chapter 10, 11, and 12. And then afterwards, just what practical steps we will take as a result of this week's reading and set a small goal or action plan. So starting with chapter 10. Now, this is in part 3, fighting for your village. Like once you create them, you've got people in. Now we need to fight for them. Chapter 10, finding your family. What kind of thoughts did you have on that one?
I really like that she says sometimes you just have to shift your definition of family. It doesn't have to be your blood family. You just look around and find those people that you resonate with and those people, your friends, and redefine family, basically.
Yeah, the family's not always just blood.
Right.
The family's the people, we surround ourselves with. She said here they would stick together through every season, know how to love others well, know how to ask good questions, know how to show empathy, know how to live unoffended, know how to extend earnest forgiveness, know how to work through differences and disagreements.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily somebody that you share blood with.
Right.
Sometimes the people we share blood with are in opposition to that.
Right. Yep.
And especially in today's society where the view of a traditional family seems kind of okay. There are just so many diverse families now that it should be more of the mindset of the people I surround myself with are my family.
Right.
Learn a better way to relate. I think we need to find a way to relate to other people, to try and foster these connections. And maybe when we have difficulty or conflict, then finding a different way to relate or to find some sort of way to relate within that conversation. It's like, oh, at least we're similar here. And
Right.
it brings back some positivity. Got the golden rule. We love others in the manner in which we ourselves were loved. So let's apply that to how we want to be loved. If we treat other people with how we want to be loved and we love others in that way, then they may take that and love other people in that more positive, healthy way as well.
Right. Because, it says in there that, not only do we love others in the manner in which we were loved, but we hurt others in the manner in which we were hurt. So you have to break that
Yeah.
cycle.
Yes. And that takes a specific form of awareness of just stopping and going, well, this isn't positive. Let's find a way to change it into something positive. It's a better way I could handle this situation.
Right.
Because, and also there comes that fear, the fear of being rejected. Um, sometimes causes us to self-sabotage because we get hurt by something stupid and therefore feel like, well, they need to hurt too. And that's obviously not healthy for that kind of relationship. So we
Right.
just find a way to step out of trying to hurt each other because we're hurt also.
Yep. Yep. And I like that in her, little subheading, it says a family is waiting for you. I mean, she again brings her spirituality into it. And then she says, that one of her favorite things about God is that he could meet our needs as a loving, caring, intimate parent in a way that no earthly parent can. And that's true of every spirituality or religion. People tend to gather together. And there's a reason for that is because they sometimes they just feel that need or have that need for community or to feel loved and accepted and wanted, regardless of what spirituality you are.
Absolutely. And I think in a lot of cases, different spiritualities encourage that sort of diversity and interconnectedness? How are other people going to learn about your beliefs if you're shunning them all because they're different?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, maybe they don't believe in what they were raised to believe and they're searching for something else. And just a little of acceptedness and conversation could lead them to a path and purpose that they were seeking, whether that be Christian or another form. But just, it's so human to connect with one another. And it seems like spirituality and those differences have been starting to separate people, and they've been doing it for years, separating people and putting in bits of hate. But if we get down to like the core principles of what spirituality and religion teaches, is that we need to be loving of each other. We need to accept each other, encourage each other.
Yeah, exactly. It's sometimes you hear, people who are, there are so many different religions that are Christian, so many different types of religions, and they're all teaching something different. And some of them are even teaching, these Christian religions are teaching hate when they should all believe pretty much the same thing. If you're a Christian, you should pretty much be teaching that love and acceptance and that type of stuff, and quit interjecting. Because I knew of one religion, or one Christian religion that says, anyone who's not this religion, you're all going to go to hell. You're all going to go to hell. And I'm like, wow, for someone who supposedly loves people, you're teaching that if you don't do what I say, you're going to a fiery torment, because that's what you believe in. You believe in a fiery torment. So how can you tell someone that and supposedly be love?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's where it's like, we just need more love, more acceptance, more understanding, um, more stability is what we're seeking in the different kinds of relationships. To wrap up the chapter, she said, don't miss the imperfect people right in front of you. And then, like, page before, it's like, there are probably some stand-in family members all around you, ready to accept and encourage and love you. Choose to see them that way, let them in, commit to them. So there are imperfect people. We're all imperfect. We need to let go of our egos. We're all imperfect. And find these imperfect people that are waiting for us to love us, to care for us, and vice versa.
Exactly.
Chapter 11, holding on to your people. Embrace a completely different way to live. Right now, we've been so isolated, as she has brought up many times. The isolation that comes with that digital reach that we have. It's great that we can communicate with so many people at such a distance in a moment's notice, but we're we need to change the way that we're living and having relationships and fostering specific relationships for our health and for our happiness.
Right. In this chapter, she does say a lot about religion and how there's an enemy in the midst, trying to pull us all apart. But that's the same with any family or any, loving relationship at all. There are always outside forces trying to pull you apart because they're either jealous of that, they want you to be alone, so maybe you'll go to them instead. There are several different things at work here, and not just religion. um I mean, even in business, when you go start doing business with another business, there might be other businesses or other companies that are like, whoa, no, 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 no. Let's start spreading some lies so you guys won't work together. Because if you work together, maybe it'll put me out of business and I'm missing out here.
Yes, definitely the lack mindset that they have.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and while having relationships, she mentioned that investing in a relationship is not about pursuing our own happiness. While it brings us happiness, it's not about pursuing it for ourselves. It's about the happiness and the change that we can bring in other people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
Really, we're doing a disservice to them and to ourselves by not creating that space for them.
Right.
The trap of codependency. Am I putting unfair expectations on this person to meet my needs? I think we get a little bit, I need this from you, I need this from you, because we have this idea of what we want from our friends. But we know from this book that there are different types of friendships, the challenger, the cheerleader. There's different people who do and bring different things to your life and your relationships. And to have like this stark list of this is everything that I need from you and I'm expecting it is setting yourself up and the other person up for failure. It's good to have boundaries and lines and say, I won't accept this treatment. I have this sort of treatment, but let's not put expectations on them because I certainly don't like expectations being put on me.
Yeah, right. I mean, like you said, you have all these different people to fulfill those different roles in your life. And when you put expectations for one role on someone that obviously is not going to fit that role, you're setting everyone up for failure and for lack of communication and for hurt and pain unnecessarily.
Right. Expectations are a phenomenal way to really set a standard, but it's something that's communicated and agreed upon by the two people so that the expectations are clearly understood by everyone involved and that they agree with it too. Because they need to be able to be like, no. And I think even honestly agree because we may have a tendency to say, like, yeah, I'll totally be your cheerleader for you, but maybe that's not within the personality. So when the opportunity comes that the person needs that cheerleader, it doesn't fit your personality, you might fail in that department.
Right.
So, I mean, you need to be aware and clear on what you can bring to the table and what you can't bring to the table.
Yeah.
And then we go into the trap of independence. So before it's like, oh, we're being codependent, but now it's like, we can't be too codependent, but we can't be too independent. If you want to be effective, you need to ask for help. You need to build a team, collaborate. Don't create or live isolated. So
Right.
we don't want to create isolation. We don't want to live in isolation. It's so easy to just stay inside and do our work with our heads down and not communicate with other people. I think that's very lonely, though.
Yeah.
And that brings up the trap of busyness.
Yeah. You have to make sure that you don't get into that. Well, I'm just too busy. I'm too busy. I'm too busy.
Mhm.
You have to find that time. You evaluate your time, find out where you're putting that unnecessary busyness on and free up that
Exactly.
time for your village, for your community.
Yeah. And that's for yourself too. I think
Mhm.
we forget that that part's for ourselves and we go, oh, another person needs us to show up here. I'm so busy. But it's like, no, you need to show up there too, because this relationship is going to increase your happiness, your stability.
Yeah,
The trap of gossip.
that's a good one.
The healthiest cultures, healthiest friendships have always have ground rules. And I
Right. And the thing
think,
is, if there's too much of that type of gossip going on, then you feel left out, you feel unsafe. And she says, if a culture feels unsafe, then you have no place to thrive, no place to share your issues, your weaknesses, your failures. You have no place to be broken. And
yeah,
y'all feel broken sometimes, but you need to have that safe place to be that. And if, gossip can cause dissension and hurt and pain, and you don't feel like you belong there anymore.
Exactly. Because it's like, oh, what are they saying about me behind my back when I'm not here? Like now I can't feel safe to tell you my secret because you just told me the secret that someone else told you. And while it, in a sense, kind of brings up this false idea of trust, like, oh, I can trust, they're bringing me in, they trust me with this gossipy information. But gossip generally is not positive, it's negative. And you don't want to associate with people who are just going to negatively behind somebody's back talk about them.
Right. Yeah. And she even said you just have to sit down with your friends and just say, hey, we've been doing this and we have to stop because I don't feel safe and I know you don't feel safe. So here's what we got to do. And I love that she said, we're going to assume the best about each other. Period.
Exactly. Right. And then when things come up like that, bring it up and be like, hey, this really doesn't fit with our values. Let's adjust.
Right.
And if they don't adjust, I think that's very telling. And we have
Mm-hmm.
to remember that we do not need to have everybody in our life for the sake of it, even blood. Like if they're not fitting with what's going to provide you and them with a positive, healthy, happy life, then eventually you have to say enough's enough.
Yep, exactly.
The trap of comparison.
Yeah, don't compare me to anybody else. I'm me.
No,
I'm not that person.
exactly. It's if you feel competitive with others, ask yourself why and change your perspective. Like it's just clear. Well, why do I feel this way? Now let's adjust because
Right,
comparing yourself to other people, stupid, different experiences, different perspectives, different life lessons that you've gathered, completely different people. Even people
right,
who grew up in the same house, different personalities, like multiple people experiencing the same event will take different things from it
right. Yep,
because they're that vastly different. But if you're going to compare yourself, only compare yourself to your past self and go, okay, I'm struggling really now. I see this person is making multiple figures in their business. Why am I not making multiple figures in my business? That's a comparing me to somebody else. To shift that, I can go, okay, I'm not making multiple six figures. I'm making six figures. I wasn't making six figures 2 years ago.
right.
That wasn't even in my mindset 2 years ago.
Yep,
And it's like, oh, I if I can do that and I can make that shift and that jump, I know I'm capable for more. I know I can do it. So that one was very helpful in just kind of readjusting how you think about yourself. Now, the trap of laziness. I think it's so easy because we get busy. So once we're done being busy, we're now tired. And that brings up laziness. Like we just want to hang out all day and not do anything and get stuck into a rhythm of just sitting down and watching TV and not being productive.
right,
Um, you have to balance it though, because you can't force yourself to be too busy all the time where you're not hitting those areas of self-care.
right. Yep,
So it's good to relax, but it can't be all on both sides, like, oh, I'm being super lazy or I'm being super busy. Maybe find a way to balance it. Maybe you focus your busy time in the morning, and so in the afternoon, you can be a little more lazy.
yep,
But then adjusting that, like with how we see friendships, don't be freaking lazy. Do what you need to do to make the connections and to build and continue to foster those relationships. The trap of fear.
yeah. There's
We have
always
far,
there's always the fear of being turned away or being told no or being hurt or whatever. But if you don't put yourselves out there to the gain to have that community, I mean, you're still going to be in fear anyway.
And lonely.
Yeah.
Nothing resolved. You're not going to get rid of that fear because you're feeding it.
Yeah.
The only way you get rid of fear is when you face it head on and then you see like, oh, there is really nothing for me to be afraid of. And that gives you more confidence to face it head on again. And she says, we have far more to fear in going it alone than in committing ourselves to go deeper with our trusted few. The loneliness is scary for sure. So,
Yep, exactly.
yeah. She mentions the toxic relationship where we need to be guarded about who we bring into our closest circle. Own your part of your mistake, seek reconciliation multiple times. Once again, ask for forgiveness, say you're sorry, move on if nothing changes. We have to be honest and clear. If we want community, we have to be willing to fight for it, but we have to fight for the right community.
Right. Yeah, it says, abandoning relationships is not a bad thing, but just don't do that every time you run into every little problem either.
Right. Exactly. If it's something small, we can adjust. That's fine. That's where you bring it up and you talk about, you seek reconciliation. If it continues happening again and again and again, then we move on.
Yep.
We got to be clear that, and that's very important for things that are your absolute will not deal with that. That's something that has to be clear in your relationships. Like, I will not be friends with people who yell at me. I'm like, do not raise your voice to me. If you raise your voice to me, I cry because I go into like a little bit of trauma regression. I don't like to cry. I don't like the way it makes me feel. It's not positive, and you know this now. So if you do this, knowing this, then I know that you're not a healthy, situation for me.
Right.
So let's be clear on who we do and don't want in our lives. This is going to take work. Ask deep questions, listen, be grateful, share the real stuff, do fun stuff together. Like, let's just be happy and living and doing fun things. Like, we want to be fun. We did so many fun things with our childhood friends. Why don't we get back to that? Like, hey, let's go to the park for coffee and swinging. I'm down. That sounds like fun. Like, it's super simple, but enjoyable. Maybe you go and discover a new nature trail together or something. Like,
Yep.
just
Yep.
explore.
Yep. I like how she also put in here, we have to look at ourselves and our relationships. And she said, if every single person you've ever been friends with has wronged you somehow, the common denominator might just be you.
Yes.
And she said, the truth is always difficult until it absolutely liberates your life. So you have to look at, okay, was I a good friend? You can't expect them to be good friends and give and give and give and take and take and take everything you have to dish out, but you're not reciprocating that.
Yeah. And then, just kind of analyze how we can improve on a regular basis. How can we continue to become better friends?
Yep.
And she had mentioned to react to patterns and not one-offs. Once again, we give people chances when we're being clear. If we've not been clear, there's a misunderstanding, then we go, okay, let me clarify. Here's where this went wrong. Here's where it should be, adjusted. We should work towards this. Is this agreed? If they say yes, or they change it, you guys agree on it, and it continues again and again, then we're looking at patterns and going, that's not okay. But look at positive patterns too.
Right.
Look for the people that send you the random messages.
Right.
And then kind of go, you know what? I've not returned that for that person. I should start sending that person random messages too, because it made me feel good. Let's
Yep.
reciprocate.
Right.
It's a fight for it. And then chapter 12, intimacy of the few. She had mentioned multiple times that we need to be careful about who we bring into our orbit, our circle, and how to foster that with people, how to make it an intimate relationship. And by being vulnerable, by being a listener, by being someone who would lighten your load.
I like,
And then,
she's sitting there. She said, if I were sitting across from you in a coffee shop, I might ask, what is your hard?
yeah.
And it may be, she said, life is hard. People are broken. Darkness is real. She goes, but I bet we could find ourselves in an unhurried conversation about the things that matters in life.
And then she had mentioned communal
Mm-hmm.
grief. Communal joy is what knits hearts together for the long haul. So sharing that vulnerability and going, this is my heart. This is what's hard for me.
Yep. Yeah. She said, we don't need 50 people who know our heart, but we just need a few who are in it with us.
Yeah. And those few that check up on us too, like give us a
Yep.
call and go, hey, I know you're going through this. How are you doing?
Right.
How can I help?
Exactly.
Yeah. And she said these friends are your anchor, your rootedness. They will give you the fuel and the accountability you need. Like this is what we need. This is what's gonna keep us going forward is community.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
I mean, now that we've read this, we need to build community. Find ways to encourage other people to get together and gather and grow and learn and foster these different relationships in this time.
Hmm.
So practical steps that we can take as a result of this reading is, we can set goals as to how many personal, professional friends we want to have, reach out to, start growing within the next 30 days. And it can be something small. She had mentioned what, like 5 or 10. She said 5 people in 5 miles.
Yeah.
So what are 5 friends we can make within 5 miles of our own living space for personal? And then I think you could expand that for professional. I don't think we need to do 5 miles for professional. I live in a really, really small town. But having we'll double it for professional, 10 professional friends that are do we want to do it in distance? Because I could do distance relationships, but I think I'm going to keep it local. So I'm going to go with 10 professional friends within the state of Arkansas.
Hmm.
I think that's a good goal for me. What about you?
Yeah, I have, live in a slightly larger area, so I'm going, I have joined this Ladies of the Lake group where they try and arrange things to get together to do things, all this ladies who, maybe don't have, most of them don't have kids in the house anymore, but they don't want to be stuck in the house all the time. They want to go out with girlfriends and do something. Like they've started a bowling league. They've started, some other things, and I've helped my mom with that. She's starting a little crochet thing where she's teaching people to crochet. She's got a few people that are going to show up next week for that. So trying to get her out there as well so that she's not in the house all the time.
Yeah.
And then
Community is important.
right. And then professionally, like I said, I recently found out that there's this group where local businesses will present to uh, women, these local women-owned businesses will present their product or business to some people who are having lunch. So it's just like, let's just have lunch and let's see what you've got for me. So there could be some professional connections there too.
Hmm. Exactly. So, I mean, I think our main goal sounds like we just need to take it a step at a time and to not give up and maybe even just go up to somebody and say, "Hey, do you want to be my friend?"
I really like
Take
your
it back.
tattoo. We should be friends.
We should be friends. Let's be friends. And then like exchange your contact information. It can be that simple. I think
Hmm.
we just need to get out of our fear and get into motion.
Yeah, I can see it now. Someone going home to their husband or partner or whatever. This crazy lady came up to me today and said,
They
we should
point
be
me out next
friends.
time. There she is. Yeah. Yeah, but we don't get the shots that we don't take. So
Right. Yep,
we
exactly.
have we have to give it a try and just put our feet forward and foster connection.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, just reaching out to people because you don't know. I mean, people in line behind you at the grocery store might just be feeling lonely and thinking, I don't know how to make friends. What do I do?
Mhm. Exactly. You turn around and you say, "Hey, you want to be my friend?" You just
And either
gotta
they
foster
look at you
connection.
like you have completely lost your mind.
She's crazy. I'd be like, "No, it's fine. I just read this book." And then maybe that's your, hey, you should join this book club and, come in and learn more.
Yeah,
Just find ways to make connections with other people because, like you said, that person may be thinking, man, I'm so lonely. And that your comment is the thing that turns around their day. But that
yeah,
doesn't happen. You don't change or impress upon anybody's life if you don't take the action.
exactly.